So now we have the layers. Remember something which I forgot to do. You can press display elements to see the frame. If not, make sure to save it somewhere so you can open it after it's finished. And also you can enable filtering to make sure that all the edges are nice. So now we have two layers. One of them, all the particles above the sea and or above above the sea, and these particles are below the sea. Actually, these are the particles which are occluded by the objects. If you remember, this object is hiding particles under itself, and this object, which is the sea, hiding particles under its surface. These are the particles which are hidden. We call them occluded particles. The rest are the actual particles, which is not, occluded or anything. I can copy this one. Which actually is a copy. So I can re-render the frame without activating this. It just render one frame and see the result. It takes a little time, not much actually. Remember, we are rendering 10 millions, and this is not small number. With Krakatoa, it really renders so fast. Again, if you have any problem, usually problem with the shading, if you have the particle look like jumping between frames in the animation, just realize that you have to fix the scale of the scene first. And second, you have to make sure the shadow map of the light has a good resolution, as we changed it when we started rendering the Krakatoa. So these are the particles. Let's wait a little and we will have a layer, which is this one. If you look at this layer, and you look at this layer, again, we have the third layer, which is this one. So Krakatoa automatically rendered the particles above the sea and under the sea. It's the same. So there is no change if I will add this pass or not. But let's see other possibility. One other possibility. Let's keep this, and I will also just duplicate this one, and I will kill this. So under, above. Why not hiding the whale? Because if you look at it or just study it logically, we have the sea, but below the sea we have some particles occluded by the sea, but we also have some particles occluded by the whale. So what we do, we render the occluded particles, then we render the sea, and we render the whale alone, and we render the other particles which are above everything, and we put them in order exactly like we were talking now. The last layer is this layer which comes over everything, and automatically we will have the whale cut from it because we have it matte here. The first layer, we can shade it in a certain way and just do some treatment for the sea to see some of that layer, like a transparency or something. But let's see one layer, one additional layer, and see what we can do also. I will go to Krakatoa, to the matte, and I will exclude the whale from here, and I will render again. Let's see what we will get. So basically we will get the occluded particles, but the ones also under the whale. If you remember here, and just wait for the render to finish, because Max is the kind of program when you render everything, you render anything, you can just really touch the layout. or the interface, unlike Maya. So if you look now, we have this layer and this layer, and let's display the other layers. I will make them smaller so we see everything. Also this one. And finally this one. So this is the most important one, which is the particles above the sea. Now we have some particles below the sea, and we can see them here, if you remember. These particles are included by the sea, and if you added this to this, we basically will have the first scene, which we rendered all the particles, and we just discarded the ocean. We didn't care about matting the ocean. We have these two, and if we look at them, the first one here is the particles under the sea and under the whale. And here are the particles above the sea and above the whale. We didn't include the whale of them. Mixing between them, between all of these, trying to find a way to composite everything together, we find it by first rendering this under everything, then rendering the sea, and just doing some kind of transparency so we can see some of these particles. Then we render the whale and we put it here. Then we render this as a final layer above everything, and automatically the whale gonna appear from it because it has alpha. And that's the best way to show the particles under the sea and above the sea correctly. We can ignore this one and ignore this one. We have no need for them. Now let's talk a little about the offset problem and finish up everything. So what we will do now, first let's go to the display layout and press this button. Means that we will see everything in its colors, not with the material. And let's hide all the particles. We have no business with them now. I can do that here. And basically what we have now is the whale and the sea. Let's here in frame number 10, let's go to the perspective, select the whale, and see what we have. As you can see, we have a problem now because apparently it looks like the whale is delayed. It should be really touching the liquid here. So there is a gap between the two. This is a problem. And this problem is basically because of the Alembic file. There's something happening with the Alembic file which make it offset one frame. What is the solution? I could say, okay, let's go to the modify panel. And here for the proxy, we have the opportunity or the chance to offset everything. Let's offset it by -1. So at least we delay the mesh -1 frame, or we delay the mesh 1 frame. Means that it will be slower, so 1 frame. So I suppose the whale gonna be correct if we will do this. Let's wait a little and see. Again, if you notice here, there are some operations which I can do for the mesh. Already I didn't really export the best mesh from RealFlow. What we can do is to decrease the polygon size in RealFlow, and we will have smoother mesh. Also, we can do some smoothing. We can add smooth here. So if you notice now, it's right. And I can choose it and rotate it. It's right. We have no problem now. But this wasn't like in consideration. There's something happening. Let's jump to next frame. Let's go to 210 as example, which when the whale is and at the end of its animation and trying to penetrate the water. In that frame, I think we will see a part of the whale under the sea, and that will be a chance for us to see if there is a problem again at the end of the animation, because now at least we know at the beginning of the animation everything looks nice, but what about the end of the animation? Let's see. So we have the whale now under the sea. Actually, we can maybe go to a later frame. I think we should just go back a little, like 206, just to see the whale before it just penetrate the water. And let's go to real flow and see in the same frame what would we see. If you notice here at 10, nothing wrong. Of course, there shouldn't be anything wrong, and the whale is exactly what it should be. So the problem from here, from the stitch. When we stitch everything, when we stitch the mesh using Alembic, stitch Alembic, we have this problem. As you can see, there's no problem here. Let's jump to the max again. And in this frame, which at the end of the animation, it looks like we may have a problem. Let's just make sure. Yeah, we have a gap here. So apparently the offset doesn't work well. Of course, in all this mess with the particles and everything, you will not notice anything, but I'm trying to see what, any detail which you may face in the production and which may cause a problem for you, and we'll try to fix it together. So to make sure that we are in a problem, to identify the problem by saying it's the Alembic stitch, it's from Alembic basically, what we will do is that I will do the same in real flow. I will go here to 206, wait until it loads here and see if I have the same case. I think we will not have any problem because the simulation happens here and we saw the simulation. There wasn't any problem with the collision. The collision happens here, but in 3D, the medium between the two, the problem or the difference between the two is the Alembic file. So let's wait a little. What we can do also in Max here, because we have a problem, I will do one thing. I will, instead of importing this mesh, I will go here and I will import one mesh, which is 206. These are the meshes which we eventually converted into one mesh. So I will import this one, only one, not the whole animation, which is the big Alembic file. Let's wait a little. Maybe we can just go to here and see. Let's rotate this and see what we can see under the water. Just remember, I have here like 8 million face, and I have in the max 8 million faces. So it's just a lot for the computer to handle. It's just a personal computer. So finally, if you look here, we have no problem at all at 206 at real flow. So the original mesh has no problem at all. The main problem is from the stitch. And to make sure 100%, we can go here. We already imported one mesh, and let's just go down and see. It's exactly like in real flow. There is no problem at all. the problem from the sequence. And I think we can really easily do a script to import the Olympic file as a sequence as in the bin file. If you go here, you will see that you can create bin file, export bin file, and import a bin file. If we will just try this, it will go ask you for the meshes, and you can add the meshes here and you import them one by one. This is another way to do things, but you will not have the opportunity to go and change the mesh into points here to display it and make it light on the 3D. But I don't think that would be as important as having the mesh exactly fit with the wheel or the collision area. So by that, we will be finishing everything. Basically, one thing just maybe I didn't go through a lot because we don't really have time, which is importing the mist. If I will go here, I have a lot of ways to import the mist here. As you remember, the mist is VDB file. So one of the methods, let's just go here and make sure that we don't have the C, so we don't just consume the memory. So what we can do is we always can create a Fume FX container, and Fume FX container can receive, if we will go to the window here, or this kind of files, which is FXD, and the other kind of files. If you remember here, we had the chance to see the extension for the mist, which is F3D, which we can import and display in Fume FX, and we can shade everything using the render layout here. Render it as a smoke, that's it. But we also can do something else. I will delete this one and I will go here to, if I remember here, to Phonics FD. And in Phonics FD, you can import the mist, and we can use actually V-Ray to create a volume, V-Ray volume grid. As we put it on the scene, it will ask us to put some VDB file, as you can see here, VDB or F3D or Aura or other extensions. And if we will have it here, we will have the opportunity to display it as we want, to define the input from here, and to shade it and render it as a smoke, as a texture, as as any. It will take the information from there and it will render it. If I will go to render preset, I will have the chance to define where is it coming from. I would go and say from Maya or from Houdini because it's the same, but wherever it is, this will override. Of course, now I'm in Krakatoa, but if I'm in V-Ray, I can just change it and I will have the results. And also, we can render it and put it with the other layers. We will see how everything comes together with the other layers we rendered already, just to see how we can composite everything. We will not go into compositing really, but we will show the render. Now let's see the layers, and I want to show you just 2 layers. Actually, when we render this, we may end up rendering 30 to 40 layers, including reflection, refraction, depth of field, velocity, other masks, a lot of masks, just to control everything and to recomposite everything. The 3D will give us all these layers, especially V-Ray is good in this. We render EXR extension, so we have all the range 16 and half float, or above that like 16 or 32 to have all the range. And eventually we will have a picture which has really content. So just to display, this is what I meant when I said we will open the door here to let the water come down. So if you will see the animation now, we will have the whale jumping. He will cast something here. Then we will jump back to the water. Then the water will open, a door will open from here, allowing the water to come on. Of course, the edge will stay here, but the table will be empty, the area of the water. Again, let's look at it. All this blackness doesn't matter because we will have reflection and refraction. Actually, I'm just displaying the layer as it is without any post-production or extracting or changing anything. And remember, the environment was black. This for the sea layer with the whale, and of course we can do a mask for the whale, mask for his tongue, for his teeth, for everything, and for the water, to be able to color everyone or each element alone. And after that we render the particles or the foam. And for the foam, if you remember, we do create the foam under, or the particles, the white particles under the sea and the white particles above the sea. But in our scenario, we would see we don't need more than the ones above the sea. So let's see what we have also here. I think we have, yeah, we have the particles. Let's see how everything is moving. Again, this is when you open the gate, all the particles slide with the water. The first thing here, it's the most amazing part, where we will feel that the two splash systems provided the kind of effect we need. I then ended up increasing the number of particles more. Just having 10 millions, it's nothing for a good simulation, but actually it gave us really a nice result. Remember, all this area is trimmed, so we don't care really about all the things happening outside. And let's look at these two layers together, only these two layers. We can just jump to a movie here, which is just compositing two layers. A little tweak in the color, and all the blackness we talk about disappears. Everything outside of this area doesn't matter. Look how the dummy particles behave here. It looks like we have some kind of wind, and actually this is why I was trying to put also noise and wind here. So we don't really need much of mist, because the other splash system is doing the purpose here, especially here and here. Again, let's look at it the final time. Look at this. So that's it for this course. I hope you enjoyed and you learned something about Reflow. Please let us know if you have any question, and we will be talking about the next project in the final video. When we started this video or this course, we were thinking about how to deliver the educational material about how to do something like this for a big scale. Oceans and splash, which you see daily in movies and in big feature films. But then we decided to extend this to make 4 or 5 courses with the same scenario, the whale jumping from from the water and to the water again, using the most known liquid programs around. So we are thinking about creating this in RealFlow as we did here, and in Phonics FD, which has really nice and amazing results, in Bifrost, Maya, or Max, and finally in Houdini, to see and compare between the results and the procedure, how we can do that. Also, if you want, and if you really want to know more about how to do this thing, please send us email at fxpg and let us know what would be a point of interest for you to know more. Maybe you want to know more about how to composite such big scenes. We didn't explain anything about compositing in this course. We just talk about how to render roughly and what we can do. But if you want more information about this, please feel free to send us an email and we will prepare a course based on your requests. Have a nice day.